Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamer Dad, with another video for you. So in today's video, we're going to take on the newest version of the Mysterious Vortex, and that will be available after you've finished the Chapter 3, which is obviously the King of Nevermore. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. So just like before, you can access both the hard or very hards in each one. I imagine that there's better rewards in the very hard, and so if you can handle level 70, that's really the way to go for it. You're using one red key anyways, and so hopefully you can bring a team that can handle things. Just like before, each area has 5 mob battles, and you really do want to clear all 5. I highly recommend bringing a unit and having all encounter up equipments, either through the badge or grass to ore. And the reason for that is if you can do that, you will be able to encounter the mobs much more easily, and that way you can clear the this dungeon a little bit faster. Not only that, you really want to gather as many materials as you can to upgrade the newest time restored weapons. I haven't actually gotten around to doing that, but I mean, for the sake of argument, you really want to do all 5 battles anyways, since you're gathering materials. Not only that, but each of the 3 areas should have at least 2 chests, and those are materials that you find, such as this Magisteel, to upgrade your defensive structures when you're taking on those newest optional bosses in the game, which is in the Arid village. So there's a hard version, and there's always normal versions available in order to kind of clear the true ending for each of the chapters. So I believe I won't do any spoilers for those who haven't played each of the chapters, since they're all independent of each other. But if you go north through Arid Village, there are definitely areas where you can encounter those both in normal and in hard once you've unlocked it, to either unlock super boss achievements or to finish up the true ending. Now in this case, we have Nona in the back, and Nona is carrying 2 grass to ores with encounter up, as well as 1 badge that's encounter up, for a total of maximum of 3 increased rates. Don't forget that this dungeon does have a 1 in 5 chance, or 20% chance, of getting extra, I think it's light on Nona, but you know what I mean, like extra points on Nona. So definitely pack her in on your team if you can afford it. I believe with most of these dungeons, it's the same thing. You need either 120 light or 120 shadow in order to take down this dungeon and get all 3 rewards. Now note that this horror is null to magic, null to water, and so we really want to have earth or other elementals weapons against it. So in this case, I do have a mixed team. Obviously, if we're not able to take it down with our Baptizo Soul or our Neptune, we can have wind and earth taking it down. So this is only my second try in. You can definitely customize your team, but keep in mind that Neptune team itself won't be able to take it down. I'm not sure about Crystal, so if you're using Eva, for example, you may be able to switch to Astro Drago instead of Icicle Zorch. I'm sure they implemented those because they know that so many people have Neptune type teams, and that's really it's an easy way to walk around, but it does make the game a little bit easier as well. And I'm sure the devs are keeping that in mind and making at least enemies that are null to water, so you can't even abuse Ultra Xion against it. Now that being said, make sure we keep on, if we have already explored the area, just keep on walking back and forth, getting all the mobs in the way. Unfortunately, sometimes you only get 2. Hopefully you can get 3, because obviously 3 has more chances of dropping materials. Although I think the bottleneck is not the materials for the weapons, it's actually the materials for the defenses. In my experience, I've run each of the first 2 chapters dungeons versions in the Mysterious Vortex enough times such that I have been able to upgrade level 1 to level 2 defenses. However, the downside is that I've already gotten all the points required to get like the rewards available in each of the chapters, and so in my opinion, I wouldn't really recommend grinding it more unless you really want to complete all the defenses. I'm not sure if you get any awards for that, but it does make your optional bosses a little bit easier to manage, being that when you take on those bosses, there are things like curse or just status effects on your team. And by having the defenses higher level, you can now damage the enemy a lot more instead, and also take less damage during each of those phases. So highly recommend it. This is actually the first time I've actually upgraded the defenses, and honestly, you can say it makes the game a little bit easier, but that is the mechanic, right? That is the mechanic. If you are willing to grind it out, certainly that is what you should be doing. So anyways, let's just take down this boss. Remember that we can just end it right there. Perfect. It's nice that because my Flam does have falcons on her, we can now use Baptisto's Soul to cast Mental Focus, and at least Rika Conquest could do a fair chunk of damage, followed by Undying Shade from Ultra Tuba to end the fight within one turn. So that's how I'm handling it. You can let me know in the comments below what kind of team you have. Maybe you have a one-click team, for example, or something along those lines. I haven't bothered to customize my team to make one-click teams yet, but I mean, this is the same kind of dungeon team I usually bring for most of my dungeons, and as long as it's good for 90% of the dungeons for me, that's probably good enough in general. If you're wondering, and I'm sure most of you know by now, but I do have all the pretty much up-to-date Grass to Ore. So we're talking about Bullseye, enemy numbers, or they call it like and Rose with Thorns, for example. Ultra Tuba is our unit that reduces all our MP costs for the first turn to 0, so that's why you never see my MP drop. And of course we have Iya Sukiya up front, so that all the enemies are inflicted with pain guaranteed, ignores resistance for, is it 3 or 5 turns? But either way, the fight ends before it starts, right? Alright. Okay, so I think we're almost finished the 5 mobs, so we'll just kind of wander around here and finish it up, making it pretty straightforward. Of course, the downside to running dungeons like this is that it does take more than a couple minutes, being that you are looking to fight as many fights as possible. So if you're short in time, what I usually do is I kind of have a dungeon that I keep in mind when I'm grinding and I have very little time in the day. And of course, I have dungeons like this where it takes a few more minutes, such as either this one, Total Theater World, and stuff like that. So my go-to right now, I believe, is Man-Eating Marsh very hard, because I am grinding out the VC Grass stuff for all mine. So that's my go-to. Now, obviously, spoiler alert, if you've already beaten this boss fight, you'll know that it has 2 phases. First phase, it is weak to Earth. And if you do that, you'll be able to bring it to the HP stopper here. I think it has HP stopper, yep. And after that, it absorbs Earth, which is really ridiculous. So, and it also awakens a zone. So it's locked in. However, the good thing is it is vulnerable to Neptune now, so we just have to Harai Jewel it and not attack with anything, and note that it's also weak to wind, neutral to water. Okay, so we should be able to end it right here, and just make sure you don't use any earth attacks for the second round. So yeah, the final chapter boss was a little bit more difficult than this. However, note that we move faster than the boss in this case for the dungeon, which makes sense. It's only level 70 and I was doing the master level, which is quite a bit harder. Let's see if we get any opuses or anything like that. You can still get treatises and codexes and opuses here. And you can clearly see that I did have 300 shadow, so I got 3 reward lines. Okay, and of course, as usual, you probably want to see my loadout. You've seen it all by now. Not super optimized, but it has more than enough capability to deal the damage. Note that instead of enemy numbers, it's called adversity now. So something to keep in mind with this update, things have changed in the wording. And there's my Falcon's Blessing, which allows Flam to always go first. Sukiya is doing nothing, and this is probably because I had customized some fights when I was doing yesterday's live stream. So unfortunately, that's what I mean by, not quite as optimized, but got the job done. Here's the enemy encounter badge, and 2 extra encountered ores for a maximum of 3, which is the maximum boost. And finally, my Cthulhu Iasnagi, and it just has the standard stuff to help push my Flam over the top. And of course, last thing, you do get some items as you get more points, and they are collected in the records here. So if you want to collect the stones, there are Chrono Stones rewards. There's light, guiding light items, and so on and so forth. So you can see there. And you can already see there are some chrono stones. So very much worth grinding if you need some, extra stones for new summons. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.